If you have been watching our YouTube channel for any length of time, you probably know that Michael and I only recently discovered the journalist and author Graham Hancock from his Netflix series Ancient Apocalypse, and we have become completely fascinated by archaeology and the origins of human history, at least the origins from Graham's perspective. We seemingly cannot get satisfied with watching Graham's interviews and podcasts. Currently, I'm reading his Holy Bible-sized book known as Underworld, and Michael has downloaded America Before as an audiobook. We have made a checklist of places Graham has mentioned across all these platforms that we would like to visit and hope to check all of them off at some point. There aren't any sites particularly close to where we live, at least not within driving or a day trip of distance, but we have been looking for other archaeological sites to explore close by, and that's how we discovered the topic of today's video, Vero Man. So little is left of this archaeological site that we actually were not even sure if we were in the right place. From looking at aerial maps and combing through the internet and watching some videos, we think this is the location of a really cool discovery from the early 1900s, and I'm going to tell that entire story. But I just want to put a disclaimer at the very beginning of this video that we are not 100% sure that we're in the right location. We think we're at least close to the right location. So we got as much footage to show you what this site looks like in 2023 as possible, but please bear in mind that there is a small chance that we may be in the wrong location entirely. In the off chance that we are in the right location, I'm going to show you both sides of this little canal. It looks like a little creek. This is the one side that is closer to the Vero Beach Airport, and then we will go to the other side. We'll cross the bridge and come around behind all these buildings, and we'll show you what it looks like from the other side. Vero Man refers to a set of fossilized human bones found near the community of Vero, which is now known as Vero Beach, Florida in 1915 and 1916. What makes these human bones so interesting is that they were found in association with other fossils of Pleistocene animals. Pleistocene is a geological epoch with dates ranging from 2,580,000 to 11,700 years ago, otherwise known as the Ice Age. The suggestion that humans might have been present in Florida or anywhere else in the Americas during the Pleistocene Ice Age is controversial because this goes against the accepted timeline of human history in which humans did not come to or inhabit the Americas until after the end of the last Ice Age. Most of the contemporary archaeologists at the time of this discovery did not accept that the Vero fossils could possibly be that old. However, recent studies show that the Vero human bones are indeed from the Pleistocene, and they are now recognized as the largest collection of human bone remains from the Pleistocene found in North America. This is so interesting because it may be a clue that the commonly accepted timeline of human history is flawed or completely wrong. There were plenty of no trespassing, restricted access, and warnings that it is a prosecutable felony to enter this property. Michael and I walked down the perimeter of the fence just to see what is here, but we did not try to cross over even though the gates were wide open. It does look like some people have worn out little fishing trails up and down this canal, but we just were not interested in risking getting in trouble, so we just walked down the length of the fence and then walked back to our truck. There really was nothing else interesting to see on this side of the bank, although we think just from the videos that we watched on YouTube that the archaeology tent was set up on this side of the canal. We really can't be 100% sure. But it did seem like the tents were set up in kind of a grassy open area, and we think this might have been where they set up their tents. But there's nothing left of that today, so there was nothing else to show here. Starting in late 1913, construction of a drainage canal from the Indian River between the settlements of Vero and Gifford uncovered vertebrate fossils. Overall, 53 species of mammals were found fossilized at Vero, 20 of which are now extinct. Samples of these fossils were sent to the State Geologist of Florida, a man named E.H. Sellards, who identified the findings as Pleistocene animals. In 1915, 26 fossilized human bones and fragments of bones were also found in the banks of the canal. The fragments became known as Vero man, although later it was determined that the remains belonged to a female who was 4 feet 9 inches tall. The following year, in 1916, Sellers conducted his own excavations at the site. He recovered a mammoth tusk with engravings on it presumably made by humans, in addition to a bird's bone with human engravings. Nearby, he recovered human bones from the stratum that contained Pleistocene fossils. Sellards also found flakes of a material like flint in addition to bone tools, including what appeared to be a broken-stemmed projectile point. Near the surface, he found a few pieces of broken ceramics. Sellards first published his findings in 1916, and he invited other scientists to visit the Vero site in order to investigate it for themselves. In October of 1916 and in March of 1917, a group of 5 scientists did visit and examine the site. One of the scientists did agree with Sellards that the human bones did come from the Pleistocene epoch, but 3 of them argued that the human bones were much more recent. The 5th scientist felt that more research was needed before a conclusion could be drawn. One of the dissenting opinions was from the most prominent anthropologist in America at the time, who was firmly convinced that humans had not arrived in the Americas until well after the Pleistocene had ended. Human bones, artifacts, and human-modified animal bones in a Pleistocene context have since been found elsewhere in Florida also, including in the nearby Melbourne area on what is now a golf course known as the Crane Creek Golf Course. The human bones excavated by Sellards were passed around various institutions for study. The carbon-14 method of dating fossils did not become possible until 35 years after the discovery of Vero man. In this time, some of the bones were lost, and others had been rendered unusable for such testing due to the way that they had been preserved with chemicals. In 2009, scientists announced the discovery of a carving of a mammoth or mastodon, or perhaps even a giant sloth, on a piece of bone found north of Vero Beach. The carving may be among the oldest art found in the Americas. Scientists studying the carving noticed similarities with Pleistocene art from Europe. Art historian Barbara Owens Alpert holds the opinion that the similarity does not prove a connection to the European art, as finely executed realistic art styles have appeared in various times and places. In 2014, new excavations at the site of the discovery of Vero man were undertaken by Mercyhurst University and the Old Vero Ice Age Sites Committee, a local nonprofit organization. The Old Vero Ice Age Sites Committee announced the discovery of a possible human living surface at least 12,000 years old during the 2014 excavation season. Excavations continued into 2015 at the time, with findings including 14,000-year-old charred bones from both a direwolf and a horse, possibly burned in a hearth. The archaeologists from Mercyhurst University withdrew from excavations at the old Vero man site in Vero Beach after the 2015 season. Starting in 2016, archaeologists from Florida Atlantic University also joined the old Vero site excavations. The conclusion of archaeologists involved in a 4-year dig at the old Vero Ice Age site is a little disappointing. Lead archaeologist James Adavaso subjected one of the projectile points found by Sellards in 1913 to radiocarbon dating and determined it was not as old as originally claimed. Sellards had believed the tool to be more than 11,000 years old, similar to the age of the extinct animals found at the site, and proving that humans lived alongside the Ice Age animals. As it turns out, carbon dating determined the tool to be less than 7,000 years old. Other discoveries in other areas of Florida have suggested that humans and Ice Age animals may have existed contemporarily, which is exciting. But the Vero Man site is unfortunately just not one of those places after all. At any rate, we knew going to this site that we weren't going to see or discover anything that hadn't been found by teams of highly trained professionals over more than 100 years now of digging at this place. But we just wanted to go to get a sense of feeling of what this site has to offer and where these fragments and shards of bones and tools came from. It really did feel kind of weird to be there in the middle of this developed area of Vero Beach. On all sides, train tracks and cars and stores and warehouses, and then you turn and you look at this canal and think, wow, they dredged up Ice Age animals and human bones that can't actually be dated because they weren't preserved properly, and tools from this site right here, right where I'm looking. So that was a really neat experience, and we enjoyed having come here just to see it. But unfortunately, the bones were not preserved in a way that we could truly determine their age, although part of me feels like Graham Hancock is just a man ahead of his time, and he's onto something, and if we just watch this space, I think eventually there will be evidence that starts to come to light that proves that he's been right all along. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed seeing what I believe to be the site where they found old Vero Man. I will see you another day in another adventure, and I hope you have a great one.